Welcome to another edition of the Terriers Together podcast. I'm Tom Henson, Wofford class of 96, and I work in the parent engagement office. And we've got a great guest today in Jason Mosier, class of 95, works for Motley Fool, and he lives up in Fairfax, Virginia. Jason, really appreciate you coming on board with us today.
Hey, really happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
We're gonna be talking a lot about stocks today and investing, which I think is just a popular subject for everybody, no matter the age group. But as I do with all of our Wofford guests, I want to start by asking you to think back. How did you end up at Wofford, and what stands out about your Wofford experience?
Wow, how did I end up at Wofford? Well, as with most things in my life, believe it or not, it was golf. Golf has kind of been there for me all my life. I met my wife at the country club where I got my first job, and so I played high school golf growing up, and was I had spoken with the coach there at the time, Dan O'Connell. During, I think it was my junior year, I was at the state championship in Greenville, South Carolina, and I had played well enough to where he had some interest in me possibly going to school there, and uh, that night we went and visited, and just really loved it. I mean, it was just a wonderful experience visiting the campus, and I got early acceptance, and they were willing to foot the bill. So they said, "Listen, son, Wofford's a really good school. You ought to consider going there." And I thought, hey, if I don't have to apply to any more schools or deal with all this acceptance stuff, sure, let's do it. Because I had the same experience when we went to the campus. I just thought, wow, this was really nice. I really enjoyed it. And so that's ultimately how I got there. And it, wow, so many things stand out. I was an economics major, and so I had a lot of really interesting classes on that side. I took a lot of philosophy courses as well. So for me, I feel like certainly I got a very well-rounded education, but I think what stands out to me is that in all walks since Wofford, I've had a few different jobs. I've worked in banking and insurance. I worked in the golf business for a while. Now as an investment analyst. My education at Wofford, that well-rounded education, has really just served me so well in virtually every career path I've taken, and it's also a lot of fun when I walk around with a Wofford T-shirt or something. Every once in a while, someone will say, "Man, did you go to Wofford?" It's You only get it every once in a while, but every once in a while you do get it. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. How did you get started in the investment analyst field and helping people with their investment plans?
Yeah, so I've been interested in investing for a long time. I mean, just like my dad got me into golf when I was a kid, he taught me about investing when I was a teenager, and he's a physician by practice. But we would always talk about the stock market and stuff like that on rides to school and whatnot. So that I think that's what piqued my interest. And then as I kind of went along, he would start giving me Christmas gifts of a few shares of stock of Walgreen or Dell or whatever the popular companies were at that time. And yeah, everybody likes money, right? And it fascinated me that there was this tool out there, this machine called the stock market, that could make such a life-changing impact. And so that's what really, I think, piqued my interest in it. And then fast forward several years, my wife and I were traveling overseas for her job, and I had discovered the Motley Fool just online, surfing around the internet one day in, I don't know, 2005 or something like that. And I just thought, wow, this is really cool. This is really interesting stuff. And I became a member of Motley Fool Services. And along the way, I met someone who actually worked there. He and I developed a friendship, and he thought I would be a good fit as an analyst with the Fool as well. And I thought, hey, why not? Let's give it a shot. So I sent the resume in, and fortunately landed the interview. And that was 11 years ago. So I've been at the Fool now for 11 years, and it's been a tremendous experience. Wonderful place to work. A lot of great people, and I always liken it to, I don't know how familiar you are with Montessori school,
Yeah.
but I grew up going to Montessori school, which is a very sort of independent leaning type of educational environment. And the Fool, I've always likened the Fool to being a Montessori school for adults. You get a chance to really just go in there and do what you love to do, kind of the way you love to do it. And if you perform, they're always happy to have you there. And if you don't, then they try to make sure they're finding that you're in the right place. They want to make sure they find the right fit for you. So it's just been a very thoughtful company, and work with a lot of really smart people there who've helped me develop into the analyst I am today. And it's just been a tremendous experience.
That's great. Let's talk about investing, and I guess maybe we go at it at the angle from a young person getting started, but clearly anybody can get started at any time. And so I want to get started in investing.
Yeah.
What's your advice?
Well, fortunately, I have some experience here in that my wife and I got our two daughters started investing when they were very young. They're rising sophomores and juniors in high school now. But when they were 5 and 6, we actually got them started investing. We opened them brokerage accounts for themselves. And essentially now, I mean, a brokerage account is essentially it's like any other bank account. So it's really easy. You just go online and you can open up an account. And for kids, it would be something like a custodial account like you would find at a regular bank. But ultimately, it was about looking at this world around us and all of these different things that we do every day, these different businesses that we interact with every day, and recognizing that so many of them they 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 offer that opportunity to be kind of an owner of that business. I mean, the lesson, the thing that stood out to my kids, what kind of sparked that interest with my kids was one day we went to have lunch at a Panera, and we were walking in there, and I said, "Isn't this cool?" Because at the time I was a shareholder of Panera, which has since gone private, and so it's not a publicly traded company anymore. But I told my kids we actually owned a little bit of that restaurant because I was a shareholder of the restaurant
Yeah.
of the business, and they thought that was the coolest thing ever. We own that Panera, and so I explained to them a little bit more how investing worked and the idea that investing is nothing more than just becoming a part owner of the businesses that you like the most. And so once they realized that that opportunity existed, we started looking at all of these other businesses that they interact with every day. And then we would kind of make it a little bit of a game. I mean, they would save their money from the tooth fairy and birthdays and whatnot. And my wife and I would help them out as well. And we would just look at all of these different businesses, whether it's Amazon or Apple or Nike or Starbucks, whatever it may be. And we thought, hey, is that a business that you would like to own? Of course, Disney was the one where they both just went crazy. So they're of course shareholders of Disney. But I think that really was for us as parents getting our kids started. I think that was really the key, was just making them realize that it was just being an owner of a business that they really liked. That's really all it is at the end of the day. I think that if you pay attention to the financial media writ large today, you probably get a little bit more of that get rich quick mentality, that trading mentality. And what we really espouse at the Motley Fool and what we try to teach our kids is that this is a long-term journey, right? This is that marathon, not a sprint thing. And you want to be a lifetime investor. And that means taking stakes in the businesses that you like the most and then going about your day and doing the other stuff that you like to do. So that's how we've worked on getting our kids started at that age. And the hope is that much like it happened with when my dad taught me, hopefully it keeps that interest, that spark there, because they see the real life example, that real living, breathing example of a portfolio that is growing. Every time we check into that portfolio and they see how much bigger it's become, they're like, wow, it's just growing like a tree. And so I think the key really is getting them started young. And for parents, it's not that difficult. It's just knowing a few of the most important points to get started and being able to open that brokerage account, and then knowing what types of businesses that you would like to become an owner in.
I would assume same principles apply for a 25-year-old who's
Oh
trying to
yeah.
get started in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 25, 15, 55. I mean, investing really is, you really do want to take that longer term mentality. We do believe, I firmly believe this, and this is something we talk about all the time at the Fool. Really, time is the individual investor's biggest friend. That's the advantage that we have over those Wall Street banks that are trading in and out of positions on a daily and weekly basis. So whether you're 15 or 25, yeah, the general principles still remain the same, and that is to take that longer term approach, think in the context of years. Hopefully you can think in the context of decades, understand why you're investing, what your goal is, and then focus on owning lots of good businesses and just taking that business owner's approach. It's not a lottery ticket, right? Peter Lynch, one of our favorite investors, legendary investor, he's always said, ownership in a company, it's not a lottery ticket, right? It's an actual ownership in a business. And if we can really stress the importance of that business owner's mentality, I feel like that really does go a long way.
What are some things that you think people should avoid in investing?
Um, wow, there's a lot. I think first and foremost, uh, avoid investing in things that you don't understand or don't know about. I mean, just avoid investing in things that you don't understand. It is absolutely very easy, particularly today when you've got crypto and meme stocks and social media with just the narrative constantly changing. It's very easy to want to jump in and out of different companies because that's what the headlines are talking about, or that's what people are saying, that's where the money is being made at this time. Make sure you just understand what you're getting into, understand the business that you want to invest in before you actually click that buy button. That to me is going to be probably the most important part of it all. But then from there, I think definitely you want to avoid that short-term trader's mentality. I mean, you have to be able to commit to viewing this as a many years long journey. Most people, when they invest, they're investing because they want to ensure their financial freedom, right? They want to make sure that they can retire comfortably. And so the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. So I would encourage folks who maybe think that, oh, well, I'm 30 or I'm 35 or I'm 40, it's just too late for me. It's never too late. It's never too late to get started investing. Uh, eh, I also think it's very important to make sure that when you invest, you want to make sure that you diversify, right? You don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. Owning three or four or five different companies, that may sound like a lot. In reality, it's not. You want to aim at maybe a portfolio with anywhere from 25 to 30. Some even prefer having up to 50 different types of companies. Knowing your risk tolerance, I think, is going to be very important in dictating how you invest. And I think for a lot of people out there, and this is very understandable, I think for a lot of folks out there, just investing in simple index funds or exchange traded funds that are essentially just funds of many different companies put together, um, that is often the best way to go, because that's a very passive form of investing. It doesn't require you doing much of anything at all. So I think if you can focus on making sure that you stay diversified, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. That also is going to be something that is important to focus on.
What are you seeing right now as trends that give you some hope, and what are you seeing? What trends are you seeing that concern you?
Well, the trends that concern me, it is very, very frustrating to see this meme stock sort of idea, this meme stock notion take off and keep legs, so to speak. It is when you look at these businesses on their own, talking about businesses like AMC, for example. These are businesses. There may be a future there for some of these companies. It's certainly possible, but their valuation, the businesses are being valued uh, not based on reality, right? These are businesses that are very much being manipulated. Um, Now, whether that's something that should happen or should not happen, whether there are laws being broken, I don't know. But what I will say is that you want to really steer clear of the flavor of the day, right? Don't fall prey to, oh, well, this is the story of the day, therefore we should be investing in it. That to me is very concerning, and that's something we battle with a lot. I mean, we have a number of different shows that we do at the Fool, and we really do try to temper the amount of time we devote towards those stories, because we don't want people to think these are the important stories. I mean, we don't want you to fall prey to that sort of meme stock culture. Some people are going to do okay with it, but I think most people that jump in and out of that stuff, they're going to get hurt. So to me, that's concerning, because if you have first time investor jumping in there, Well, they go in there, they lose their shirt, and then they say, "Well, this investing thing, it's a racket like I told you it was, and I'm not going to do it anymore." And absolutely, you need to be doing it. It is by far and away the best way to ensure your financial freedom is to invest. But there are certainly right ways to do it. That meme stock, I think crypto to an extent. I mean, maybe there's a world where crypto really matters, but I think there's a lot of trash out there right now. And I think again, a lot of people are just going to jump into it because they think that's where the money's being made, but they don't really understand it. And that could scare them away for good, which is that's a problem, and that's something we're constantly battling at the Fool. As far as trends that we like, things that we see that are offering opportunities. One of the services I run at work is focused on investing in 5G technology and the digital economy that is coming from all of this. As we've seen mobile technology, and you know as well as I mean, when we were when we were at Wofford, there wasn't even any internet. I mean, we weren't doing things that way yet. But clearly the world has changed a lot in a short amount of time. It is a mobile, it's a digital world now, and that's great. There are a lot of opportunities coming from this, and as we've been through this mobile cycle of 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and now we're watching 5G connectivity take over, and it's going to enable more things. In the pandemic, I think accelerated this timeline in a lot of ways. It forced businesses to change, to become more digital. We hear a word bandied about a lot in the retail space called omni-channel, and that's ultimately just retailers committing to being wherever their customers need them to be. It's not just e-commerce, it's not just physical retail, it's combining all of that together to be the best retail operation you can. So omnichannel is something that's developing from that. But yeah, I think tech is presenting a lot of neat opportunities, in 5G. And the digital economy that's coming from all that is a really neat long-term trend that's going to be playing out here over the next decade. And I'd say probably 5 to 6 years from now, we're going to start talking about, believe it or not, 6G. And then after that, 7G and so on and so on. But I think these evolutions of technology and mobile technology in particular, and the digital economy that's coming from it all is really one of the most important long-term trends that we as investors can capitalize on.
Are there any specific companies, one or two, that you are specifically keeping an eye on?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of companies that we like, a lot of companies that I have recommended to our members, a lot of companies that I've recommended that I also own. And when I look at particularly this digital economy that's developing, I mean, I think you can look at investing and say, well, there are going to be some companies that are really big leaders in this space. There are going to be some companies that are kind of in the middle tier that have developed a lot and are strong. Maybe they're not quite as strong as leaders in the space. And then you have some smaller companies that maybe are up and comers and offer a lot of promise. It's hard to imagine the world 10 years from now and Amazon not being a part of it. But I think probably most people would think the e-commerce angle for Amazon is the most important part. And I think that's probably missing the forest for the trees, because really for Amazon, a lot of it also bases around the Amazon Web Services side of the business, and ultimately the impact it has on businesses all over the world. I mean, if Amazon shut its doors, the entire world essentially would stop would stop spinning, because so much of what Amazon does powers all of these other businesses through its Amazon Web Services side of the business. So you not only have the e-commerce side of the business in Amazon, but you also have this really fascinating tech infrastructure play in Amazon Web Services. And when you put that all together, Amazon is just a tremendous powerhouse that I think is going to remain for some time to come. Another space that we really love, and we've seen this really come to light here over the past couple of years. We like to call it the war on cash. But ultimately, people are just using cash less and less, and they're spending money digitally, right? They're using their phones more often, or they're using cards, but you're not physically handing cash over as much when you're paying for stuff. And so, I mean, a couple of companies that are really helping to spearhead that movement are Square and PayPal. A lot of people don't know, but PayPal also owns Venmo. And Venmo is a very popular app, particularly with younger demographics. So they really do have a lot of market share they've captured there. And then I think the other one that really stands out, one that I've really enjoyed following, it's done very well for our members since I recommended it, is Teladoc Health. And I think my father being a physician, and I remember when we talked about this initially, this whole concept of virtual healthcare and telemedicine, it was tough for him to buy into because the mentality is that, well, if you want to see a doctor, you got to physically be in the room with a doctor. And insurance isn't going to tolerate that. And state regulations aren't going to allow it. Well, that was 5 years ago. Fast forward to today. I mean, telemedicine is becoming a core offering for virtually every company, every HMO, every insurance company. I mean, it is something that is going to become core to our nation's, or really to the world's healthcare landscape. And so Teladoc Health is a company that really has just, they've been investing so much so quickly to gain share in the space and become really the go-to platform for this idea. And then they also recently acquired a company called Livongo, which helps address chronic conditions. And so, the thing about chronic conditions is they require chronic attention. And so Teladoc Health, I think, is another business that stands out as one that should really only continue to benefit as we go more and more digital.
I know you've come back to Wofford and talked to students and talked to them via Zoom and whatnot. What do you enjoy most about that as far as interacting with college students and telling them about what you do?
Man, there's so much. And by the way, before I forget, let me just make sure to disclose that all of those companies I just mentioned, Amazon, PayPal, Square, and Teladoc, those are companies that I personally own as well.
Okay.
Just so that we're clear, I want to disclose. I just make sure I'm not trying to
Good.
steer anybody the wrong way. But yeah, I have a lot of fun all throughout my years in the golf business. After I graduated Wofford, I spent 7 years or so in the golf business. I taught a lot in golf. I help run our internship program here at the Fool, which involves a lot of teaching. We've had philanthropic efforts here at the Fool where we teach little kids. I've worked with junior achievement. So having the opportunity to come down there to Wofford was just another way of being able to go help people who may have interest, right? I mean, I think for me, at that age, I mean, that stuff wasn't really being discussed a whole lot at the time. I mean, clearly it was a little bit of a different world, connectivity wasn't there. But today, when you see all of these colleges with their investment clubs and the interest that people have in the stock market and investing, I mean, to me, it's a lot of fun to be able to help. And I think if you have that itch to be able to help people, well, I mean, you go do it whenever you get the chance to go do it. And to be able to go back down to Wofford was just, that was even more thrilling just because I was able to spend so much time there as a student. And to see the changes, I mean, that's not the Wofford that we went to there anymore. But and I mean that in the very best way. Like it's just amazing to see what that campus has become. And it's just I was just speechless when I walked it the last few years. And so part of it is just kind of being able to go reminisce a little bit and remember some of those good old days.
Well, Jason, you've done a great job. One, you've given us some great advice on stocks and investing and the importance of it, and some ideas I think that all of us can think about. But you've also done a great job of plugging why people should come back to campus. So you've covered multiple things for us today, and one was intended, one was not intended. But thank you for doing that.
Well, I tell you, I mean, I'm looking forward to getting back down there. I mean, Calhoun and I had kept we've been keeping in touch for the last several years, and being able to go down there, I was feeling like it could become an annual thing. And then obviously everything got put on hold here in 2020. I hope that we can get back, and kind of resume that regular schedule, because I'd love to get back down there. It's just a nice place to be.
Well, we'd love to have you back anytime, and really appreciate your time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, this has been another episode of our Terriers Together podcast. Again, I want to thank Jason Mosier, class of '95, for joining us. Tune into these things and let us know what you think. Please get in touch with me any way that you can, via email or social media or whatever, if you got ideas for future ones. But we enjoy bringing these to you and trying to keep people connected to Wofford. And Jason, again, thanks for your time. And folks, we'll talk to you again sometime soon. Go Terriers.